Hi, this is Mark Shepherd. So today, a little bit different. We're going to be interviewing another practitioner and acupuncturist over in Australia. This is Julia Bartrop. She has who practices acupuncture, herbs, moxa, cupping, and has a special interest in women's health, fertility, and pregnancy. So, hi, Julia. How are you doing?
Hi, Mark. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, very well, thank you. Very well. It's a pleasure for you to have you here because I know it's definitely the end of the day for you rather than a nice middle of the day for me. So thank you very much. So tell me, um, what actually got you into all this? What set you off on the acupuncture route?
Oh, that's a huge question. Basically, my mum has always been into alternative therapies, and she had a GP who went and studied in China and did acupuncture in China. So when she was younger and she used to get pain, her doctor used to treat her with acupuncture. And we were always brought up, you don't go to the doctor to get antibiotics, you always get your food and you treat holistically. Not to say that we didn't go to the doctor when we needed to. It's very important that you do see your doctor. But when I was 19, I was actually in a car accident and we were T-boned and I was the passenger in the car. And what happened was the car seat of the driver, the screws came out with the impact and actually hit me on the right side of my hip. And I managed to pass out before the car hit, so I was nice and floppy, which in many ways saved my life. Her elbow actually hit my jaw and broke my jaw in 5 places. And then I had major seatbelt injuries as well. So all of the hospital staff and everything told my parents that I was extremely lucky to actually be here, and they couldn't work out how my injuries, weren't more severe than what they were. And I was very lucky because before the car actually hit, I passed out. I think that was my body actually protecting me, my spirit protecting me. And basically after that, I was under chiropractic care every day for 2 years. I had a broken collarbone, a broken jaw in 5 places. And I was actually black and blue from the top of my neck all the way down to my ankle for 9 months. So from an acupuncture point of view, lots and lots of blood stasis. And that's actually still an underlying issue now, even when I'm in my 40s, and the car accident was more than 23 years ago now. So while I was under chiropractic treatment, he noticed that obviously I was having a lot of issues. So the car accident, it was actually a friend driving. So she was charged with dangerous driving, brought up a lot of issues within the group dynamic. So there was a lot of emotional issues going on, a lot of Shen disturbance, as well as trauma. Which being 19, I didn't really know how to process and basically shut down and compartmentalized a whole heap of that. My chiropractor actually recognized that and sent me off to a Chinese medicine practitioner. So Western medicine wanted to put me on antidepressants. We did the antidepressants. I went on them for 3 months and then took myself off them because I found that the antidepressants weren't actually helping me. They just numbed me and I wasn't feeling anything, which is not how I should be feeling, and it didn't resonate with me. So my Chinese medicine practitioner helped me with the shock, with the trauma, and helped me heal not just emotionally, but physically. And basically between the chiropractor and my Chinese medicine practitioner, they basically put me back together or put the shell of me back together, and then we continued treating for many years afterwards. So yeah, that's so that happened when I was 19, and I was studying a Bachelor of Science in Medical Science, which I actually graduated from and worked in that for many years. And it was actually when I was in Switzerland. I was working for a private lab in Switzerland, and we were doing 16-hour days and looking down the microscope, and I was starting to get issues with my eyes, and the ophthalmologist actually recommended that I find a new career. So, so when I was looking for a new career, I sat down and I went, well, what is it that I'm interested in? And I've always been interested in holistic or natural health. And then I sat down and I thought, well, what's helped me in my life? And that led me to chiropractic and Chinese medicine. So I was researching Chinese medicine and looking at different universities and different degrees. And I actually got butterflies and I went, okay, that's a sign from the universe. And this is what I always meant to do. So at the age of 31, I enrolled for a 5-year degree, and that started me on my acupuncture journey.
That is quite an incredible journey from 19 to there, and my word. And also, it's things that jump out to me from that is, firstly, you're very much bringing two worlds together. You're very scientifically trained, but also
Yes.
from such a young age, appreciation of if you like, other sciences and different ways of approaching things, which is, it's merge the two. It's really quite something. Although I think they can work very well together. The other thing that comes out from that is that so many times when you talk to an acupuncturist and say, well, how did you get started in this? Something really big has brought them to it, in terms of something that they had to get over themselves or something that they've witnessed with others, which actually starts them off on that.
Yeah, and I find talking to a lot of other practitioners, it's always, they've had pain issues or injuries or something, and they've actually gone and had that treatment and found it's worked really well and resonated
Mm,
with them, and then they've
mm,
gone and done further studies or actually changed their careers
mhm,
as well. So, and I think from a personal view and as a practitioner, having those issues behind me, it's like I tend to attract them, but I can also recognize emotions or signs in other people
mhm,
about what's going on beneath the surface. So and that sort of resonates, and that comes through intuitively as
mhm.
well. But obviously having that experience and going through all that trauma, yeah, it certainly plays a part in myself as a practitioner as well. So
And provides great empathy, no doubt, when you come across people who have maybe been struggling with things for a long time, and whilst coming for treatment, sometimes they feel it hard to think that the treatment's going to work anyway. So it's almost helping people realize that, give this time, let's see what happens. And do you find that in your work?
I do find that, and for some people, it can be 1 or 2 treatments, and what's going on is much better. For
Mm,
other people, like myself, it
mm,
actually took oh, it must have been a good 3.5 years,
yeah, yeah,
of treatment, and that
yeah.
was me committing to the treatment
Mm,
as
mm,
well, and knowing that it wasn't just going to be 1 or 2 treatments; it was
yeah,
going to be long term,
yeah.
so that I could get the results and it would benefit my physical, mental,
Hmm.
and emotional health as
Yeah.
well. And I know that my clients do recognize that as well. So I quite often will explain,
Hmm.
my story,
Hmm.
and say, look, I know where you're coming from, and I know,
Mm,
you're getting tired, and, we can take a break, or, we're at that stage, we're about to have a breakthrough.
yeah, yeah,
And once we sort of get there, or get over this
mm,
hurdle,
mm,
things are going to,
yeah.
start picking up. So yeah, so my clients do appreciate that as well. Well, I hope. So yeah,
It's a real bonus to be treated by someone who's been there, because it
yeah.
really does give great understanding. And so coming from that and your own experiences, you, you almost see possibly a whole career opening out in terms of helping people from a rehabilitation point of view, because you've had the experiences of that rehabilitation and mind, body, spirit all the way through. And so no doubt you've worked with people on that level. And then from looking at your website and talking to you, you have a real strong uh, focus with women's health, fertility, and pregnancy. So, kind of, what drew you there?
So at the age, obviously with the car accident, it was quite huge, and I was actually told at 19 that because of the car accident, I'd never actually be able to have children. So for a 19-year-old to hear this, it's sort of like, it's really hard to come to terms with. You know, because you've barely even begun your journey into adulthood, and to be told that this is something that you're never going to be able to achieve is actually quite daunting. And however, I do have 2 children. I have 2 wonderful girls who are 4 and 2.5. And then people are like, well, you know, you were told you couldn't have. How did you have children? And the answer is, I don't know. Apart from the fact that when I was at university and studying, I was having acupuncture every week. When we went to China, I went and saw the top gynecologists there, and they gave me herb. I was having the foot massages three times a week, and every time they came to my ovaries and uterus and hip area, it was always really, really sore. And then, yeah, I started my own practice in 2014 and got pregnant in 2015. So I have to say that I think it was actually all the treatment that I had that actually reconnected everything and opened everything up. So when people come and see me and say, look, I've been told I can't have children, it's like, well, okay, let's, you know, work with the body, and I won't promise them, but it's like, let's see what will happen if we do this. And so women's health to me is really, really important, because we are the nurturers. We tend to be juggling thousands of things in the air, and if we don't look after ourselves, basically if we disappear, there's a huge hole in the gap, and it's really important that we look after ourselves. But when we become mums, something actually switches off in our brain, and we put ourselves last, which, you know, I did as well. But it's really important that we actually look after ourselves, so that we can look after everyone else. So this is where I sort of got into women's health, and it sort of is an extension of what I've gone through as well. So again, you've got that empathy, and it's like, yep, I know, I've been there. And that also comes down to my birth stories as well. So obviously with the accident, I wasn't able to have a natural birth, so I ended up with 2 emergency C-sections. So I've now got that on top of everything else. So I have gone into, so we've done a easy birthing preparation course with a midwife to empower women about birth, and to give them all the knowledge that they need to know about all the different options and what might happen. And, you know, if you end up with a C-section, it's not your fault, you know, nothing's wrong. And just making sure that emotionally they're okay as well. So it's not just, you know, during pregnancy, it's all this hype about, you know, conception, and then you get pregnant, and it's like all about the baby and, you know, how are you going? And then as soon as you have the baby, it's all about, oh, okay, you've done your job now, let's just focus on the baby. But mum sort of gets pushed aside and forgotten about. So what I really want to put out there is bringing in like the golden month. So mum needs to nurture herself, mum needs to look after herself, mum needs to not focus on, you know, getting her baby body back. There's no such thing as a pre-baby body. You know, our bodies grow a child for 9 months. So, you know, our body goes through amazing change, and, you know, we grow an extra organ. So, you know, we do a lot of work during those 9 months, and then we find that once a mum has the baby, she's sort of forgotten about, and all the focus is on the baby and the milestones. So when it comes to women's health, I'm very, very focused on making sure that mum has a voice, and mum feels that they are nurtured and supported and that they can find other women to help them support themselves and come into a village. And that's also how I've linked in with other practitioners. So I work with a lactation consultant, I work with a midwife, I've got osteos, I've got chiros that specialize in everything, so that we all come together to form a holistic team that can actually look after these women as well. So if there's anything that's out of my scope of practice, I've got health professionals that I can refer to so that she knows that she's being looked after. And I think this is one thing that is actually missing in our society, is the fact that we used to live in a village and it was the whole village that raised the children. Whereas in society now we're more fragmented and we don't necessarily have the support anymore. So I think I've gone off on a tangent, but yeah, so that's what I'm really passionate about. And you know, when we're treating women's health, it's the emotional health as well. So I do treat a lot of stress, anxiety, fatigue, and yeah. So, and then I go into the menopause as well. So, but once I've got a client, I explain about all the different changes, and then we work holistically. So we're working with food as medicine, we're working with herbs, we're with the acupuncture, and I also give them breathing techniques and homework. So I'll give them acupressure points that they can press during the week in between seeing me, so that they're working on themselves. And I'm giving them tools to empower them and get their health and their wellness back, so that, you know, they don't need to rely on me as much. So yeah. I can talk about this for ages.
Well,
This is my passion.
it's lovely to listen to. I mean, it's such a lovely support network that you've got there, and you know, the things that are jumping out at me is like that when you talk about women's health. Sometimes people look at that as a very mechanical subject, but like you're saying, it's the whole person that needs to be looked after. And as you were saying, also that looking after yourself can get switched off. And when someone is doing so many different things, you are the hub of the wheel. If you're not looking after the hub of the wheel, then it's very difficult to do the rest anyway, isn't it? It just gets so depleted. Well, it's no, it sounds like a lovely support you're offering there, which is yeah, really quite incredible. I mean, one of the things that I generally say to people, if when they're coming up to the stage that the baby's pretty much due, I'd say, well, once the baby's come, you want 3 visitors: the ones that cook, the ones that clean, and the ones that do the hoovering. Otherwise, they can just. But you know, it's so important. It's so important. So, I, you know, I think. I was trying not to use the words. It was an absolute, well, it was a privilege to hear that, actually, in terms of the journey that you've had and what's come out of that and what you can then offer people. That's wonderful. Is there anything that you would like to add to get from a slightly different view about someone who's maybe thinking about wanting to do acupuncture themselves? Got any advice you would give them, or anything that they should be bearing in mind before they start up on this?
I guess from my point of view is, if you're going to see a practitioner, you want to make sure that you feel safe, that you feel comfortable with them, that you have rapport. So if you're looking into acupuncture, you know, do your research, have a look at the different acupuncturists that are out there, have a look at their website, give them a call, see if you actually connect with them, because a lot of our treatment is that we have that connection with that person. And I do actually find that if I don't connect with the person, the treatment is not as good. And quite often I will chat to them and say, look, I don't think that we're getting the results that, you know, we could be, and I will refer them on, because I want them to get, you know, obviously the best treatment. Acupuncture is wonderful. So, you know, we treat the whole person, and basically it's your body doing the healing, and the needles are just connecting and talking to your body, and that's how the healing occurs. So it doesn't hurt. There will be points that are more tender or more sort of ouch, but that's a good sign, because if you're getting that, it means that there's a healing that's going on. If you're scared of needles, that's okay. We don't have to do acupuncture. We can do moxibustion, we can do acupressure. As well, there's laser therapy, you know, there's magnets that you can do on the acupressure point, on the acupuncture points as well, and you still get that healing throughout your body. Have a look into it, have a chat with other people that have had acupuncture, and see if it resonates with you, and if it does, great, give it a go.
Absolutely, absolutely, very, very good words. I mean, and sometimes the worst thing that could possibly happen is you'll have a nice relaxing hour or two. So yeah, that's really great. And so
Yeah, I always say to everyone, you get a free snooze, free 20-minute, you know,
free
nap.
snooze, absolutely. And so could you tell us exactly where you are?
Okay, so I'm in Australia, so based in Eltham in Melbourne. So I work out of two practices. So Eltham is the Rebalance Chinese Medicine, and on a Monday at Renew Health and Acupuncture Clinic. And yeah, I have a passion for women's health and for preconception, fertility, pregnancy, and postnatal care. I do treat men as well. I do get asked that a lot, and yes, I can do. I treat pain, digestive issues. I do integrate the Eastern and the Western, like you said. So I've got all of that knowledge, and I do, you know, combine the two. So I do find that is really powerful, and yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Well, thank you for your time today. It's been brilliant. So what I'm going to do is obviously going to put your details down with this video, so if anybody wants to get in contact with you. And yeah, so thank you very much for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure chatting to you.
All the best. Bye bye now.
Okay, bye.